Hey everyone, as always, Dylan Miller Prospecting, and it's Paydirt review time again. And for today's review, I decided to revisit goldbaronpaydirt.com, and more specifically, his 1 gram limited edition Stagecoach Robbery Paydirt. But this review is going to be different than my usual reviews because I am not actually going to be panning out the Paydirt inside this box today for 2 different reasons. The first being this Paydirt was designed to be a shelf Paydirt, a collector's item you would say. So I don't want to break the seal on the bag inside and ruin any collectability it might have. Instead, after this video, it's going to go on my shelf with the rest of my Paydirts. However, I am going to give this Paydirt a full review, just like in all my other videos, with an ROI, fun factor, and all my other criteria. The only difference is going to be the ROI is going to be based off the minimum amount of gold guaranteed in this bag of Paydirt, not the actual amount I pan out. Now, I mentioned a second reason I'm not going to pan it out, and that's because the ROI on this Paydirt absolutely sucks. Usually, if I wanted a Paydirt for my shelf and to review, I would order 2 bags through a secret shopper, 1 to pan and 1 to save. But the ROI is just so bad on this Paydirt, I just couldn't see losing that much money by buying a second bag. With that being said, there is a way to improve the ROI, and that's because this Paydirt has a puzzle involved that if you solve it, you will win a 10-ounce silver bar worth about $500. Meaning if you solve the puzzle and win, you will get a great ROI. Unfortunately, even that has some flaws in the system. This Paydirt has things I absolutely love about it and things I hate. But before we get into all that, let's just go to the overhead, open this box up, and show you everything I got for $250. Now, as you saw, I posted the description for this box of Paydirt, what it includes and all that stuff. So let's just go through it though. It is a beautiful box. I really do like the design of the box. It's got a great little picture on it and things like that. But I also have some major problems with this box that we'll get into later. For now, let's just show you everything that's included. So there is the box. Hopefully you can see all that once it's opened. And here we go. And this is the read me first. It tells you about the clues and stuff like that, which I'm not going to share with you. If you want to know the clues to solve your own and win some silver, you got to buy your own box. We'll open it. Has a Gold Baron Reserve bag. Another letter, which I'm sure is the clue or something like that, which I'm not going to open as well because I'm not going to try to solve the clue. The bag of Paydirt. Beautiful bag. I really enjoy this bag. I like the seal on it. I like the color of the bag. It is a very dark gold. Most gold bags are very light. If you know the Gold Bay bag, this one is much darker. I really like that. Also includes, I believe this is the card. Yes, this is the Gold Baron Reserve card. Really nice, in a nice slab and everything. There we go. A little stand for it. And then a card, which is his business card. It also does say inside the box, it was a hot, dusty afternoon in the Wild West when a stagecoach thundered down the trail from the mountains, its iron-rimmed wheels groaning under the weight of a precious cargo. A shipment of pure bullion from a gold baron's reserve, but before it could reach the safety of the next town, disaster struck. So, nice stuff. Get some nice stuff. I like some of the stuff, not huge fan of some of the other stuff. And like I said, I am not actually going to be panning this out. I am just going to base my ROI off of what is guaranteed inside. So let's just go back to the face cam, look at my ugly mug, and we'll go through the ROI, fun factor, and all my other criteria. And I'm going to tell you why you should or shouldn't buy this box of Paydirt. All right, finished calculating my ROI, writing up a review, but before we get into that, I do need to again put in a disclaimer in case you missed the very beginning of the video, because I didn't actually pan out the bag of Paydirt for today's review. Instead, it is sitting up on my shelf right here, and I am just going to be basing my ROI and the fun factor off of the guaranteed minimum ROI that this bag of Paydirt is guaranteed. So now let's get into it. We'll open up the spreadsheet, go through the numbers, and see what we have. So again, this was from goldbaronpaydirt.com. It was his Reserve Legends bag, the Stagecoach Robbery. It's the #1 in a series of Paydirts he plans on putting out. It was guaranteed 1 gram of gold. Its cost was $229. Shipping was $21.05, and the total cost being $250.05. Now for the gold recovered, again, I didn't actually pan it out, so I'm going to actually use the number 1.05 grams because all sellers do add a little bit more. Not all sellers, but the vast majority of sellers do add a little bit more. Usually it's about 1.05 to 1.1. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to use 1.05. Now the gold spot on the day of purchase was $131.99, meaning that the gold I should have found would be worth about $138.59, giving me an ROI of 55.42%, or on my scale, a 5.5. So like I said earlier in this video, not a very good ROI, not a very good ROI at all. Now he does give you the option to add in a second bag, but even then, the ROI isn't too good. If you add in a second bag, the total cost goes up to $380. You recover 2.1 grams of gold. The gold spot would still be $131.99. Gold value would be about $277.18, making it a 72.93% ROI, which isn't bad. It's much, much better than the 5.5. But unfortunately, for that amount of money, you could buy a 3-gram bag of Paydirt from most sellers. And I can't see this box and these other things being worth a full gram of gold when gold is at $131.99 per gram. It just doesn't add up. The math, I just don't like that math. So again, that's one of the reasons why I didn't buy a second bag. It's just throwing too much money away. I'll get one bag, I'll put it on my shelf, I'll do this review, but I won't pay for a second one and get another bad ROI. Now for fun factor, I'm going to leave it the exact same at a 5.5. I don't think there's anything about this Paydirt that's going to make it go up or go down. It's Paydirt. Very seldom does a Paydirt ever go up more or down more on a fun factor in my scores. I mostly use fun factor to make the ROI a bigger part of the total score. For description, he's getting an 8. It's a great description. Gold Baron does a really good job on description. I think the only thing that was missing was the difficulty of the Paydirt, and I'm sure he will add that after he watches this video, and it will end up being a 10. But right now, I think that was the only thing I didn't find. It's a great description. It tells you everything you'll need to know, but difficulty might be a good one. Again, though, I think that might not be in there just because this is a shelf Paydirt. So if you're not panning it out, difficulty doesn't matter. So the information he does give you, though, it's an 8. Quantity and packaging, he's getting a 9. It's a 10 for quantity because you were getting the amount of gold he stated. It does come in a typical coffee bag. You can see that right here. And it also comes with this, but that doesn't actually protect it when it was in the box. So if it would have broken open, it just, so 9 total score. I understand the aesthetics. It wouldn't have looked good if you would have stuffed it inside a Ziploc bag. But, a little something extra to protect it maybe might help. But either way, total score 9. Customer service and shipping is a 10. The customer service with Gold Baron is excellent. It shipped out within 24 hours, so it went out really quickly. Total score 10. Giving Gold Baron's Reserve Legends bag #1 a total score of 7.6, which isn't a horrible score. Unfortunately, though, that is almost all being held up by the fact that it's got a great quantity and packaging and customer service and description. The ROI is really, really bad. If the ROI would be about a 72%, this would be a really good bag of Paydirt. I cannot see this low ROI. And now for the big question. Would I recommend this bag of Paydirt or buy it again? And I hate to say this, but no, I wouldn't recommend it or buy it again. But that it is in its current state and with such a low ROI. And here's why. Currently, the guaranteed ROI on this Paydirt is about 55%. And for a 1 gram bag of Paydirt, I think a minimum should be closer to 80% or above. Now, again, this Paydirt does have a chase or puzzle involved where you can win 1 of 2 bars of silver, giving you an over 100% ROI. But the only way to win one of those bars is when all 60 bags have sold. And when the ROI is 55%, this Paydirt just isn't going to sell. So in 5 or 6 years when the last bag sells, are you going to remember to log in and solve the puzzle? Or will this stuff just never sell out and one day the owner will just close shop and use the terms of service you agreed to when you bought it and end the puzzle? And that is in the rules. In the terms of service, he does say he can end this puzzle and the giveaway at any time. So one of the things I dislike about this Paydirt is that it has a terms of service and the entire puzzle part and silver prize can be ended at any time. But that's not the real problem with this Paydirt. The real problem with this Paydirt is the seller went crazy with ideas and nobody told him to pull in the reins and slow down. And all those ideas he had kept lowering the ROI more and more and more until it finally hit 55%, which again just sucks for a 1 gram bag of Paydirt. For example, he spent a lot of money designing a really cool bag and label with a custom foil stamp, then goes and makes a bag that's so-so looking to cover it up with. I mean, what is this, $1 he spent on this? That just lowered the ROI. It includes a collector's card that to me just isn't needed. That's over here, but maybe some people will like that. So I can oversee that. But my biggest gripe though is this box. This thing was just a huge mistake and the worst idea ever. This box cost between $8 to $10. I talked to Gold Baron and he told me this box cost between $8 to $10. And it added $9 for shipping. Plus add in what the design cost was, the labor and everything else. Almost 10% of the $250 cost I spent was on this box. So if he removed the box and the silly canvas bag and maybe lowered his own profit, you could probably have gotten a 65 to 70% ROI out of this bag of Paydirt, which would have made it worth putting on this shelf and trying to solve a puzzle. Gold Baron just fell into the same trap that Emily Rydell did when she launched her Bering Sea Paydirt. It had a fancy box, cards, knickknacks, etc. And the ROI was about 52% as well. And everyone hated it. Now she did away with all that stuff and the ROI is way better. Still not 70%, but it's about a 68%. Now with all this being said, I still think there is hope for this Paydirt because he can change the Paydirt at any time. His TOS allows him to. In fact, he can remove the box, that bag, and lower the cost in his Paydirt tomorrow if he wanted to. And he can just use this box for a future limited edition Paydirt, maybe a 10-pound bag that would warrant needing such a huge box. Because if you saw, this box doesn't need to be this big for that little bag of Paydirt that's going into it. Like I said, the way it sits now with a 55% ROI, I just can't recommend spending $250 and maybe one day in the future being able to solve a puzzle to get a decent ROI. Because if I didn't mention it before, all 60 bags have to sell before you can actually file and solve the puzzle. So while I will keep the Paydirt and have it sitting on my shelf, unfortunately, this is $30 that's going to go into the trash. But that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Happy painting. And if you're not already a subscriber, think about hitting the subscribe button below.